That night, as I lay in bed in a hotel far from home, it all came back to me like a bad movie I couldn't turn off. 3. In the past 15 years, I've never forgotten what happened, but I've managed to suppress it and not dwell on it. But earlier that night, it was forcefully pushed to the forefront of my mind. My whole body was shaking, only my hands weren't shaking. They were hard as a rock as I held the gun a few inches from her head while she slept in our bed. She was naked, the sheet only covering the bottom of her legs, and I could still see her. It's the oldest cliché in the books, but in my case, it turned out to be true. Husband comes home early from a business trip, catches his wife with another man, etc., etc., etc. I was gone for a whole week and wasn't due back until Friday. But we worked hard and finished late Thursday night, and I was so anxious to get back into Jeanette's waiting arms that I changed my plans and drove home that evening. The first inkling that I was in trouble was when I called home, and Jeanette's voice was panting. There was a sultry slurring in it, as if she were drunk and enjoying herself. That alone would not have made me so suspicious if I hadn't heard the sounds of a baseball game going on in the background. The thing was, Jeanette wasn't much of a sports fan, and she hated baseball, calling it boring. So why was there a baseball game on TV, and quite loudly at that, if I wasn't there? For some reason I can never understand, I made a hasty decision not to tell her I was going home. I just said it like I was doing my usual nightly I love you style phone call like I did every night when I was on the road. Whether or not it would have changed anything, I'll never know anymore. As I turned onto the street where our house was located, I realized that my worst fears had been realized. A strange car I'd never seen before was parked in the driveway, and all the lights in front of the house were dark. My gut told me what was going on, but I needed to see for myself, so I parked on the street and then cautiously and quietly approached the side door, the driveway. It was unlocked, so I silently entered, took off my moccasins, and walked through the back room entrance into the kitchen. As soon as I opened the door, I heard Jeanette and realized she was engaged in some sort of sexual activity. She was moaning in her own special way somehow, not particularly loud but very guttural, very distinct. But I still needed to see, so I crept down the hallway, past the closed door to the bedroom where our 4-year-old daughter, Jamie, I assumed, was sleeping. I tiptoed to our bedroom door and now saw that Jeanette was not alone. I quietly opened the door and was confronted with my worst nightmare. My beautiful wife of 6 years was on all fours and having sex royally with a large man. What's more, he used really degrading words when he had my wife. 3. Then my loving wife ducked her face into a pillow and screamed from a finish more explosive than any I had ever seen her achieve with me. But her lover wouldn't let her off the hook. He picked her up by the hair and continued to taunt her, talking about what a slut she was, and how she was his slut, and how she had proven it the day before. I was literally sickened because I had no idea, not the slightest clue, that Jeanette wasn't completely devoted and faithful to me. Sure, I had traveled a lot in the past year, but when I was home, she was never less affectionate than usual, and our sex life was active, even with a 4-year-old in the house. Heck, we even talked about having another one. An impenetrable darkness descended upon me, but somehow I managed to gather my thoughts just enough not to get into an immediate confrontation. Somehow I had a feeling that this was going to end badly for me. I'm not exactly a wimp, but this guy was probably 5 inches taller than me and weighed a good 40 pounds more, and he seemed to be all muscle. No, I needed an equalizer if I wanted to avenge myself, and at that moment that was the only thing on my mind. And I knew exactly where I could find what I needed. I closed the bedroom door silently. They didn't even know I was there. I slipped out of the house, got back in the car, and drove away. My father was a cop and a gun enthusiast at the time, so he had a lot of pistols, rifles, and shotguns. He taught all 3 of his children, I had an older sister and a younger brother, how to shoot when we were teenagers. Moreover, I knew where he kept the key to his gun safe. And as luck would have it, Mom and Dad were vacationing in the Rockies in their RV, which was his pride and joy. I always had a key to their house so I could feed the dog when I was home and they were traveling, so my showing up at the house, even at this late hour, wasn't overly suspicious. To be honest, at that moment I didn't care if anyone knew what I was doing or not. It didn't matter to me because I wasn't going to be around for it to matter. I was going to take one of Daddy's guns, shoot Jeanette and her lover, if he was still there, and then kill myself. Jeanette's betrayal, coming so suddenly out of nowhere, took away all my will to live. I remember being in a daze when I pulled into the driveway of my parents' house, went inside, turned off the alarm, and went into my father's study. I looked in his desk drawer, found the key I needed, and then went to the gun cabinet. I found the gun I wanted, a 9mm automatic. I took out the clip, found it full, put it in the gun, and slipped it into the waistband of my pants. I was ready. I closed the closet and left my parents' house without even remembering to set off the alarm and drove back to my house. Not once during that whole time did I think about anything other than what I planned to do when I got there. I'm a pretty goal-oriented person, and when I choose a course, I can be relentless in pursuing my goal. I was somewhat disappointed when I saw that Jeanette's lover's car was gone, indicating that he had no intention of staying there overnight. But I just dismissed it. The center of my anger was my wife. Once again, I slipped silently into my house and stood ready to kill the cheating bitch I thought I loved and then end my own misery. Suddenly, I heard a sound behind me, a soft sigh. "Daddy?" Jamie said softly. "Daddy? Why do you want to shoot Mommy?" For some reason, it penetrated through the fog that was my mind, and I realized what I was about to do to my beautiful little girl. I'll never know what made her wake up, what made her get out of bed and come here at this very moment. Divine intervention? That's the only answer that makes sense to me. Suddenly, it seemed to me that everything happened at the same time. Jeanette flinched and woke up, and then screamed when she saw me standing there with a gun in my hand. A second later, I let out an unintelligible scream and threw the gun across the room to smash the picture of our wedding on the dresser, which startled Jamie, and she began to sob. Tears stinging my eyes, and Jeanette's screams urging me, "Stop, please let me explain," ringing in my ears. I picked up my daughter, pulled her against me, and rushed to the door. She clung to me with all her might, feeling, I think, that her world was about to be turned upside down. "Where are we going, Daddy?" Jamie asked between sobs. "We're going to Grandpa and Grandma's for the night," I said through my own sobs. "Mommy did something really bad, and we can't stay here. We'll come back tomorrow and get your things, but we have to leave before something really bad happens." And with those words, I burst into sobs like I hadn't sobbed in years. I returned to my hometown for a conference in my chosen field of endeavor, in which I had achieved considerable success. I had ambivalent feelings about coming home. So much had changed in the 15 years since that terrible night when I came close to committing murder-suicide. The city has grown noticeably, but it has left me and my loved ones behind in its wake. Both Mom and Dad are gone. Dad got lung cancer and died 8 years ago, and Mom died mostly of a broken heart just 6 months after Dad. My sister never made this place her home, and my brother left after getting a lucrative job offer on the other side of the country. So after my mom died, I had no reason to go back, and I didn't. Too many bad memories. After the penultimate day of our 4-day event, I was tired of being cooped up in a hotel room, so I decided to venture down to the hotel bar for a couple beers. I have to be very careful about drinking because there was a time when it nearly killed me. But I can handle a couple drinks, and I felt I needed them to relax. As I usually did, I found a corner booth and sat down so that I could see everything in the bar. It was a habit I'd acquired a long time ago, part of the lack of trust issues stemming from my breakup with Jeanette. I was sipping my second mug of beer when she walked in. I mentally berated myself that she had shown up on the one night I'd be at the bar I'd visited, the one and only time I'd returned to my hometown. I knew right away it was her. You can't live with someone, especially someone as beautiful as Jeanette, and not recognize her even 15 years later. I've actually seen her once or twice in the intervening time, but I hadn't seen her since my mother's funeral, and we hadn't spoken then. In many ways, she hadn't changed a bit. She had the same cat-like gait that emphasized her height of 178 centimeters. She had the same red hair, styled the same way, a little below her shoulders, and the same fiery green eyes. But something about her had changed. The only thing I noticed that was different, well, at least the first thing I noticed right away, was that she had clearly enlarged her breasts. They were fuller and thicker than I remembered them, and they bounced freely and easily in her gold lace blouse. She seemed to be looking for someone, and that gave me a chance to take a closer look at her, and what I saw I didn't like. She was wearing quite a bit of makeup, and her relatively short skirt and stockings gave her a slutty look that didn't flatter her. There was also a certain hardness about her, as if she had been through a few hard knocks. After a minute, during which she walked over to the bar and picked up a drink she hadn't paid for, she obviously saw who she was meeting, and I was even less impressed. I recognized the guy from the convention and remembered him as some cocky braggart who fancied himself a ladies' man. But he seemed too soft to be a real player, and if I'm not mistaken, he'd have to pay for the privilege of spending time with my ex-wife. I don't know why I stood up and intervened. Maybe it was an underlying sense of concern for Jeanette. Maybe I was just curious about her, or maybe I just wanted to shake the asshole a little. I nonchalantly walked over to the booth Jeanette had just occupied, leaned over and whispered in the guy's ear. "It's time for you to go, buddy," I said. "Come on, hit the road." He looked at me with anger in his eyes, at least until he met my gaze. "You can't tell me what to do," the man said in a slightly squeaky voice. "We're on a date, don't we, Jeannie?" Jeanette just shrugged her shoulders and watched him passively. I reached out with my free hand, grabbed his balls, and whispered in his ear again, this time with unconcealed anger in my voice. "If you don't back off in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to rip off your tiny tool and shove it down your throat," I whispered, and squeezed him hard, a motion that made him gasp and his eyes bulge before I released him and stepped aside to let him out of the stall. "You're not worth getting hurt over," he said to Jeanette as he ran away. Comfortably making room, I sat down across from Jeanette. We just stared at each other, wondering who was going to melt the ice. Naturally, she was the first to do it. "You've always had a flair for the dramatic," she said. "Maybe if you'd been so determined 15 years ago, we'd still be together." "No, I became that way because of what you did to me," I said, then nodded toward her empty glass. "The usual?" "Sure. I haven't changed that much," she said. So I called the waitress over and ordered Jeanette a gin and tonic and myself another Bud Light. I was dangerously close to my self-restraint, but at that moment I didn't care. "You look good, Jason. Really good," Jeanette said with some warmth. "Thank you," I said. After we moved in, I went to the gym and got serious about getting in shape. I decided that I would never be second best again. "Jason, you were never second best," she said with a pained expression on her face. "You're the only man I've ever loved or will ever love. You will never be second best in my heart." "But not in your pussy?" I said bitterly, and then decided not to go down that path. "I'm sorry, Jeanette, that was inappropriate." "No, it's okay, I deserved it," she said. "I loved you, and I still do. But there are demons in my soul that need to be fed. As long as you were always there to take care of me, I could fight them off. But when you started traveling..." An awkward silence enveloped us as we both allowed unwanted memories to surface in our minds. Finally, I asked the one question I'd been pondering since she walked through the door. "Are you working tonight?" I said. Jeanette sort of grinned, confirming my suspicions about her work. She also knew a lot about booze and pot. I was a pretty addicted beer drinker at the time, but never really into drugs, although I was familiar enough with them to know what to do when someone passed me a joint. But I took Jeanette to a New Year's Eve party, and there the joints were pretty regular. Around 10 o'clock we were drunk as hell, and Jeanette pulled me into an empty bedroom, locked the door, and started undressing. "I want you, Jason," she purred. "I've wanted you since the first day you came to the store, and now you're here." That night we slept together for the first time. We finished up, got dressed, and were back at the party well before midnight. At the time, I never stopped wondering how an 18-year-old high school girl learned how to have sex like that. But I soon learned that Jeanette had learned many things they don't teach in high school. My brother Jeff was the same age as Jeanette, and although they went to different schools, different stories go around. And after it started to seem like I was getting serious about her, he took me aside during spring break and told me some of the things he'd heard about her. The story was that she had fucked just about every guy worth a tick at her school, and many of the guys from some of the other schools in town. I should have taken Jeff's concerns more seriously, but I was already hopelessly in love and wasn't inclined to give much credence to salacious rumors. I asked Jeanette about it, and she said she dated a lot, and yes, she had sex with a lot of her boyfriends, but most of those things were simply not true. I believed her because I wanted to believe her, and honestly, I really think she genuinely loved me and enjoyed sex with me. I have no idea if she was faithful to me that spring when I was in college and she was in high school. If not, I never found out. So I have no reason to think she wasn't. Jeanette wasn't cut out for college, so after graduating from high school, she went to work at a department store in the town where I was in college, and we moved into an apartment together. We got married a year later, and after I graduated from college, I got a job with a company based in our hometown. Maybe if we had settled elsewhere, things might have worked out differently, but I doubt it. Jeanette was a time bomb that I think would have exploded wherever she ended up. The fact that it was in our hometown only made it easier. We'd been married for 2 years. 2 blissfully happy years, I might add, when Jeanette got pregnant with Jamie. Jeanette wasn't too happy about it. I had to talk her into giving up birth control and trying to start a family. After all, she did it because she wanted to make me happy. But it was a difficult pregnancy and a painful birth, so even from the beginning there was a bit of a barrier between her and Jamie. Jeanette was by no means neglectful or cruel, but there just wasn't the affection you'd expect between mother and daughter. So there was no doubt in anyone's mind that Jamie was Daddy's little girl, and perhaps that drove a little wedge between Jeanette and me. However, things only started to fall apart, without my knowledge, when Jamie was about 3 years old. I got a promotion and had to travel a lot. I later found out that Jeanette started leaving me after about 8 or 9 months when she met an old high school boyfriend who somehow came back into her life. He apparently brought her back to a drug-addicted, hypersexualized lifestyle, and you already know the rest. After that horrible night, I took steps to kick Jeanette out of my house, which she didn't fight. I hired an investigator to find out her activities over the previous 6 months. Jeanette tried to get me to sit down and listen to what she had to say, and the judge eventually advised me to seek counseling. But it didn't really make any sense. Whether she wanted to or not, Jeanette humiliated me in my hometown, and it was more than I could take. I got custody of Jamie as part of the divorce proceedings and found another job in a town about 100 miles from my hometown. Jeanette visited Jamie once a month, but that didn't last long. I found out that one weekend when Jamie was home, one of her boyfriends came over. They started smoking pot and ended up hooking up while Jamie was left to her own devices in the living room. At least they went into the bedroom and closed the door, but that's when I found out that Jeanette often did the same thing while we were still married, before I found out she was cheating on me. In any case, after that, Jeanette's visitation rights to the child didn't matter. I accepted a transfer to the town where I am now, a few states away from my old hometown, and quietly rebuilt my life. Would I have gone through with it, shot Jeanette, shot myself, and killed myself if Jamie hadn't intervened when she did? I think I would have. In hindsight, I can say it sounds so incredibly selfish, but I was so utterly devastated at that moment that I saw no future and no hope. But I didn't, and all I had to do was pick up the pieces and move on. The convention ended with lunch, then I packed my bags and prepared to move out. I felt a deep need to see Kathy, her soothing touch to the raw emotions that meeting Jeanette had exposed. As I checked out, the porter handed me a heavy paper envelope and told me that a woman had left it for me earlier that morning. I waited until I got on the plane before opening it. Inside was a 1-page letter with my name on it and a thick sealed envelope with Jamie's name on it. I opened the letter addressed to me and couldn't help but smile when I saw Jeanette's distinctive handwriting. "Dear Jason," the letter said, "it meant a lot to me just to hear you say you don't hate me. God knows you have every right to hate me for what I've done. It sounds like you did a wonderful job raising Jamie, but I expected nothing less. I always knew you'd be a great father, and deep down I always knew I'd be a lousy mother, even though I tried. I don't know if she even remembers me or not, and that's okay. Your new wife was a bigger mom to her than I was, and I have no right to intrude on her life. But I did want to communicate with her a little bit. So I wrote her a long letter telling her some things about my life and why we broke up. I want you to save it and give it to her right before she gets married. Maybe if she reads about the terrible mistakes I made, she won't follow in my footsteps. I believe she will act wisely in choosing a husband. And I want her to realize that when you have a good man in your home, you should treat him like a king and make him the first man in your life. I forgot that and threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Take care of yourself and please give Jamie my love. Love, Jeanette." Kathy and the boys, Bobby and Philip, were waiting in the arrivals hall when I got off the plane. Jamie couldn't make it because she had an exam the next morning, but she will be home for the weekend. I cannot overemphasize how much Kathy Riley saved my life. I met her while she was filling out a pre-employment questionnaire at a substance abuse center where I sought outpatient help after my then-boss gave me an ultimatum: get treatment or get a new job. It was the culmination of my alcoholic phase, a phase I had fallen into in the 3 years since my divorce. Kathy is tall and slender with a narrow waist and small breasts. She is completely black Irish, with dark hair that she wears quite short. Her best features are definitely her expressive brown eyes and her charming smile. When Katie smiles, the whole room lights up, and it reflects her relentlessly optimistic nature. She knew I was concerned about something because I was awfully quiet on the way home. Oh, I listened and carelessly commented while the boys told me about their week. But as they fell asleep in the back seat, I just stared out the window in silence. Katie knew better than to push for answers because she knew I would open up to her like I always did when I was ready. Once we were home, I tucked the boys into bed, then set my suitcase by the closet and methodically undressed. Katie was in the bathroom doing her nightly ritual with the door open, humming a tune while I lay on the bed in just my underwear. I ran into Jeanette last night and we got to talking, I said without preamble. Oh, Katie said, sticking her head out of the bathroom door. Any particular reason why now all of a sudden? I just happened to run into her, I said. She was there, on business, and I had a couple beers to relax. I doubt it was entirely by chance, Katie said. I imagine she jumped at the chance to see you and maybe clear the air. I would have. How many beers have you had? 4, I said openly. I was awfully close to just shitting myself, but I didn't. It was pretty emotionally draining. Then you probably needed it, Katie said. And I believe you need some of it too. I smiled as Katie smoothly crossed the room and turned off the overhead light, leaving the room bathed in the soft light of the bedside lamp. All the way across, she lightly stroked her breasts through the material of her nightgown. She was wearing my favorite silky, tight-fitting, strappy nightgown that just covered her ass. It wasn't see-through at all, but because of the material, it emphasized every curve of her supple body, especially her B-cup breasts. Her eyes glistened, and her perfect teeth shone white as she smiled that special smile that made me want her almost from the first time I met her. She climbed onto the bed from the footboard and settled between my legs. You just lie on your back and let Dr. Katie take care of you, she said quietly. However, just when I thought I was in a good place, a vision of Jeanette the night I caught her cheating came before my eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt the same red haze descend on my soul. I had been such an idiot. I had married Jeanette knowing her background, knowing a little about her past, knowing her blatantly carnal nature. I had been warned, but until that awful night when I came home early and found her cheating on me with someone else, I thought our love had overcome all that. It always pissed me off when I thought about it, and at the beginning of our relationship I took most of my anger and frustration out on Katie. There was nothing hurtful about it. Then I looked at her face and I burst into tears again, and I cried like I hadn't cried since the night I took my daughter and left the woman who was still the great love of my life. And I felt ashamed. Katie just pulled me to her and held me while I spilled it all out. Like her, I realized that while Jeanette may have been my first great love, I was better off with the best woman in the world, and I was a fool to pine for what I had lost years ago, and maybe what I didn't have in the first place. With that thought, I calmed down and kissed Kathy hard. I love you, Kathy, I said with deep feeling. Thank you for your understanding. It was hard to see her again. I thought I was done with it all, but seeing her and finally talking to her made me remember everything again. I'm sorry if I took it out on you. You don't deserve that. What did I tell you when we first got close? Katie said quietly. I can never completely remove Jeanette from your heart, but you have a big enough heart to make enough room for me. Honey, she broke my heart. I don't want her there. Not after all this time, I said almost desperately. You're the one I want. You're the one who deserves all of my heart, not just part of it. Jason, listen to me, Katie said firmly. You can't change the past. You loved her, And she gave you a beautiful little girl, and she needs a place in your heart. That's one of the things I love about you. You have an infinite capacity to love. We have a life together that looks forward, and I love what we have. But you can't just bury the past, so don't even try. I do love you really, really much, I whispered, feeling sleep finally take over me. Katie reached over to turn off the lamp, then wrapped her arms around me in her comforting embrace as I slipped into unconsciousness. 4 years had passed since the night I'd last seen Jeanette. In just an hour or so, Jamie will be married to a fine young man she met in college. He is madly in love with her, and she is absolutely crazy about him. She works as a psychologist in a neighboring school district, and he is studying to be a nurse practitioner. Hey, don't laugh. It's a very lucrative field, and they don't live too far away from us in a medium-sized town. I'm sitting alone in a small alcove of the large Catholic church of which Kathy and I have been members since our own marriage. I have Jeanette's letter in my hand, and I'm weighing whether or not to give it to her. What could she say to the daughter she effectively abandoned so many years ago? What could she say that would break a little girl's heart? A heart that longed for her mother during those long years when it was just the two of us. Unfortunately, Jeanette can't say it in person. She was murdered 2 years ago, killed in a filthy motel room by some psycho customer. I went to the funeral, but Jamie refused to go. It was then that I discovered all the hidden bitterness she still carried about what Jeanette had done to us. Through counseling, both from a professional and from Kathy, she was able to get rid of most of that bitterness. Still, I wonder how she will receive a posthumous message from the woman who caused us all so much pain. Finally, I make a decision. For what it's worth, Jeanette was still Jamie's mother, and I believe she wanted to make amends as best she could. It was the least I could do for the woman who first won my heart, no matter what she did to it. "Honey, can I talk to you for a second in private?" I say, entering the bustle of that bride's room where Jamie, her maids of honor, and stepmother are fussing as the time approaches. "Of course, Daddy, what's the matter?" Jamie says as she joins me outside the room. "Your mother, Jeanette, wanted me to give this to you before you got married," I say as I hold out the letter to her. "Please read it with an open mind. Do it for me. Please. If looks could kill, I'd be mortally wounded. First-time brides should not wear the kind of humiliating look of contempt that appears on my daughter's face when I mention her mother." But as she reads the letter, Jamie's features soften, turning into the young woman I'm used to seeing. The playful, kind look of an intelligent, confident person, and I notice 1 or 3 tears rolling down her cheek as she finishes the letter. "She really loved you, didn't she?" Jamie says. "Yes, in her own way, I think she did," I answer, handing her a handkerchief. She wipes her eyes, and we come in together, father and daughter who have experienced a critical moment in time that could have ended in tragedy. "She was such a fool," Jamie finally says, holding me at arm's length. "Yeah, but I was a fool too," I say. "I knew what she was like, and I married her anyway." Then she folds the letter neatly, puts it back in the envelope, and tucks it into a fold of her dress, where I think she can hold it close to her heart. "Come on, Daddy," Jamie says, pulling me into the bride's room. "My real mom is here, and I think we need Mom's help." I laugh then, and with a perplexed look on my face, perplexed but puzzled, the 3 of us hug Katie, which says a lot. Yes, I was once a fool, and the memory still haunts me. But I was lucky enough to get a second chance at love with a woman who deserved it, and with her help I was able to live a happy life again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice? Not this time. I sat at the large wooden desk in my home office with grim determination. After reviewing my checklist for the 10th time and making sure my plans were properly prepared, I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and thought back over the past 2 weeks. Our first email exchange had occurred 12 days ago when I was traveling to Memphis on business. My email was sent to a sexy woman with the nickname Ashley. Ashley is a member of a popular, world-renowned cheater site. I was drawn to Ashley's profile. Her profile headline read, "Sweet and married, wants to explore." I am a 48-year-old married woman. I have spent over half my life being a loving wife and mother, dedicated to my family, friends, and community. Now I selfishly want to explore sex with men other than my husband. I am incredibly discreet and will only date men who will play by my rules. If you're interested, take a chance and introduce yourself. With great interest, I wrote, "Hi, my name is Mike. I'm 39, married, and want to stay married, well-educated, and have a professional career. I work as a senior project manager in the computer hardware industry, and am currently overseeing a project near you. I commute to Hartford every week, and will continue this schedule until the project is completed in 18 months. Physically, I am 6'1", 190 pounds, with a trim and athletic build. I have short black hair and dark eyes. I am told I am a handsome man. Sexually, I tend to be dominant and like to take control. I am not looking for love. I get that at home. Instead, I am looking for rough, physical, and uninhibited sex. Like you, I am 100% discreet. I can meet in public at a location away from your hometown. This will give us the privacy you need, and we can get to know each other in a safe environment. Further, assuming we decide that we are a good match and want to begin a close friendship, I will stay at a hotel when I am in town and invite you to my room. I would love the opportunity to get to know you via email and look forward to meeting you." After sending the email, I checked a few other profiles, but found no one more interesting than Ashley. After a short visit to the nearly empty hotel bar, I went to bed and fell soundly asleep. The next day was busy. My clients in Memphis had several technical meetings scheduled, and I was on the run until the early evening. I took 2 clients out to dinner at an upscale seafood restaurant. We were able to put the busy day behind us and enjoyed dinner. I grabbed a bourbon on the rocks as I walked through the hotel lobby and took the drink to my room. After changing into gym shorts and a t-shirt, I booted up my computer. A reply from Ashley had been sent through the website to my email. The letter read, "Hi, Mike. Thanks for introducing yourself. Your letter was much more informative than most of the ones I have received. Honestly, most write, 'Want to get laid?' or something similar. Yours was refreshing. Thank you. More about me. I've been married to the same man for over 20 years. My husband works as an executive in the construction industry. He travels for business, and while he's away, and only when he's traveling, I date. I am a successful real estate agent. As usual in my industry, I have a chaotic schedule. With the right communication and planning, I can get dates during the day or early evening. I have been on this site for over a year and joined when my youngest child left for college. I admit that the combination of having an empty house, a husband who travels a lot, and a close divorced friend who brags about her many sexual exploits has given me a tendency to have affairs. I am attracted to you for several reasons. I only date married men. I adhere to the political term mutual assured destruction. I am also glad you are from out of town and have a hotel room. 3 of my past friends were local. I was constantly worried that I would run into them when I was out walking with my husband. In fact, I saw one of my boyfriends after we broke up at our local airport when I was going on vacation with hubby. Thankfully, he didn't notice me. I'm also thrilled that you're 10 years younger than me. I've never been with a man 10 years younger than me. I've gotten thousands of emails on the site over the year. I've heard that women get many more than men. I've had online relationships with over 25 men and met 8 in real life over coffee. I've only had 6 affairs if you count the 3 one-night stands. The other 3 relationships lasted several months each, and they were all exciting in different ways. I have a few questions for you. Do you currently have any other women, other than your wife? What do you dislike about online interactions with women? Is this your first romance? What do you look for in a partner? I want you to understand that we will need to get to know each other through the post. I won't jump into bed in a few days. I can also promise you that I am worth the effort. I'll look forward to further communication." I didn't want to seem pushy, So after reading Ashley's email, I turned off my computer and headed to the hotel gym. I ran on the treadmill for 30 minutes, lifted dumbbells, and did pull-ups afterward, before heading back to my room and getting into bed. The next morning at 6 o'clock, I arrived at the Memphis airport and flew home. I stopped by the office for a couple hours to take care of some urgent business. As we planned, I met my wife Bonnie at a local bistro along with longtime friend Kelly and her sex buddy of the week. Dinner and drinks were great. The company was barely tolerable. I didn't like Kelly. She was a slut who hated men. As we left the restaurant parking lot, Bonnie knelt in the front seat, leaned over the console, unzipped my pants. The ride home took a little over 30 minutes, and Bonnie spent the entire time slowly bobbing her head in my lap. Saturday, I woke up early and with a pot of coffee, headed to my home office to finish up all the end-of-the-week paperwork. I knew Bonnie would be in bed for the next few hours, so I felt safe opening my email and replying to Ashley. "Good morning, Ashley." I apologize for the delay in replying. I flew home yesterday morning, spent the afternoon at the office, and had a date with my wife in the evening. Since we are both very cautious, can we agree that we won't be upset if responses are delayed? I would hope so. To your questions, I am currently not affiliated with anyone. I've overseen 6 small projects in the last 3 months. I haven't spent much time in any city, and as a result, I haven't sought out a friend with benefits. Our group has fully completed 4 projects, and I was assigned the newest one in Hartford. The Hartford project is very extensive and requires constant on-site supervision. I will be visiting you often. In the evenings, I will have the opportunity to host a guest at the hotel on a regular basis. I started dating 7 years ago and have had a total of 16 affairs. 5 of them were one-night stands, 8 lasted a few months, and 3 went on discreetly for a year or more. What do I like the least? Liars. I've gotten into the habit of being forthright and honest. If I don't want to answer a question, I'll let you know. I won't lie. All the one-night stands included incredible sex with women seeking permanent friendship. But alas, they all disappeared after the first date. My husband has been away all day and will be home soon, so I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm sending an anonymous, faceless picture so you can get a good look at my hot old lady body. I hope you like it. The photo was very sexy and showed Ashley from the neck down. She was wearing a wet white t-shirt, similar to what girls wear to wet t-shirt competitions on spring break. The thin, almost transparent shirt clung to her hard nipples and firm, round tits. The shirt ended just above her flat stomach. Ashley's lower half of her body was covered by a tiny black thong. She looked amazing. As usual, Monday morning was busy with updates and planning meetings. I had to get everything done by the end of the day. The next morning, I was leaving town. After lunch, I closed my office door and replied to Ashley. "Wow, you are a very attractive woman. It's hot. It's freaking hot. I'm flying to Hartford tomorrow, and I should be satisfied knowing you're close and continuing your correspondence. That will be enough for today." In my first letter, I gave my general description. I am also happy to report that I exercise daily. I run 20 miles a week and lift weights every other day. I am toned and have some definition in my arms, shoulders, and chest. I'm sorry this letter is so short. Work is intense today, and I need to get to my next appointment. I've attached some pictures. 4 of the photos were very provocative. The first was from the neck down, emphasizing a gym-tightened body in sweat-wet shorts and a t-shirt. The next picture was about the same pose, but naked with an erection. The third picture showed a long, thick, erect penis between the lips of a very sexy African-American woman. The last picture showed the same woman with her lips pressed against her flat groin. I added the PS to my letter and wrote, "I too think sex in black and white is erotic." Because of my travel schedule and problems with finalizing the project, my day was filled. The next 2 days, I worked late. On those days, I didn't open my email. When I did, I found 2 emails from Ashley. She wrote to me on Monday night, "Your letters are making me horny. I really slept well. Just like your pictures of you with that sexy black woman, I kept 1 trophy picture of each of my novels. They're anonymous, but I think they're so damn hot. I stash them in a subdirectory on my work computer and sometimes look at them and masturbate when I need to come. I've attached each of the trophies. I hope they make you horny and hot for me." Attached to the letter were 6 pictures. In each one, Ashley was on all fours with another man sitting behind her. On Wednesday morning, Ashley wrote again, My mind is clouded with lust as I have been waiting for your next letter. I am going crazy knowing you are in the Hartford area. I was wondering what hotel you stay at when you come here on business. Yesterday, my company signed contracts for 3 new listings. I visited each of them to familiarize myself with the homes. As I walked through each house, I imagined that you were a potential client. I used my fingers in every bathroom in the house and touched myself thinking about having sex with you. Tell me, what do you hope our first date will be like? I took 3 very dirty pictures for you. The pictures were amazing. My guess is that Ashley set her phone camera on the dresser in the bedroom and pointed it at the bed. I was going to meet 3 co-workers at the hotel bar for a late-night drink. Before I left, I took a picture of my computer screen with the 3rd picture of Ashley on the screen. I wrote, "I can't wait to see you. I'll write a much longer letter later." After a quick drink with my team, I went back to my room. I texted Ashley, "I'm staying at the Marriott Hotel near the Convention Center in downtown Hartford. The hotel is fairly new and has 2 good restaurants and 2 bars. The parking lot is great. After 6 p.m., only guests in the lobby. The Marriott is not a hangout for locals, so it would be unusual for my partner to run into someone she knows. As a real estate agent, you can tell anyone you're meeting a client. However, if we decide to have an affair, I'll stay at any hotel you want. I can stay anywhere. Ashley, our emails have gotten very explicit. I'm glad you're excited, and I hope you're starting to think about getting together. You asked about our first date. Let me tell you about it. Our first date will be during a workday at a local coffee shop. You'll be professionally dressed for me with a button-up blouse that emphasizes your sexy breasts. I want your legs, pussy, and ass to be bare. As we sit together, we get to know each other better. In 30 minutes, we'll find out how truthful our letters were. We will also find out if there is a personal attraction. If our meeting and socializing goes as we both hope, we'll arrange to meet in my hotel room later that evening. After you give me a sex show, I will give you a key to my hotel room and we will meet there later that evening. Ashley, I expect you to be my obedient plaything. If your husband is leaving next week, let's make an appointment. When is he leaving? While I was texting Ashley, she responded to my earlier picture and email. You are such a sexy and exciting man. I can't wait for your next email. It was only 11 o'clock at night. I decided to leave the computer on. I expected Ashley to write again tonight. I walked around the hotel bar. Other than a few lonely businessmen, there was no one here. I ordered a bourbon for the room. By the time I got back, Ashley had responded with a short note. Hubby is leaving on Monday. I'm so nervous, but I want to meet up so badly. Can we meet Monday at 9 in the morning? Let's meet at the Starbucks in Weathersfield. It's on Silas Dean Highway near Marshall's house. I'll get dressed like you told me to. It's going to be a great show, I promise. I can't wait till Monday night. I'll let you use my body. Wow, you're driving me crazy. I flew home on Friday and we had a normal weekend. Friday we had dinner at a restaurant, and when we got home, we had sex. On Saturday, Bonnie and I joined another couple for a round of golf, followed by drinks and dinner. After another round of sex on Sunday morning, we headed to church and the gym. Sunday afternoon was beautiful. I grabbed a book and read for a couple hours. It was a peaceful day. It was 8:10 Monday morning when I heard Bonnie close the bathroom door. The noise pulled me away from my thoughts of the previous 2 weeks. I got up from the table and walked to the kitchen. Filling a mug of coffee, I sat down at the kitchen table. I heard the clack of Bonnie's heels as she came down the carpeted stairs and walked down the tiled hallway toward the kitchen. Bonnie was in her morning pre-coffee stupor and walked right up to the coffee pot. I watched quietly as she poured a cup and stirred in a teaspoon of sugar. She took a satisfied sip, turned around, saw me, and shrieked. "Christ!" she shrieked. "You scared the hell out of me. I thought you'd gone to the airport." I took a slow, deep sip from my mug before answering. The trip was canceled. Bonnie and I had been married for 23 years, and in that time I'd learned to read her like a book. She tried to look nonchalant, calm, and collected, but in fact she was in a panic. She walked carelessly over to the bookshelf at the end of the kitchen table. Every night for the past 15 years, Bonnie had charged her laptop and phone and put them on the bookshelf before she went to bed. When she noticed the place was empty, she asked, "Chris, what did you do with my phone and laptop?" Instead of answering, I took another sip of coffee and asked, "Why aren't you wearing panties and a bra?" What? What the hell are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you're not wearing any underwear. Why are you naked under your blouse and skirt?" Bonnie's face began to blush as she replied, "Don't be a pervert. I'm wearing underwear." She began to slowly back out of the kitchen. Before she took 2 steps, I asked, "Why are you lying to me? How dare you accuse me of lying? What's gotten into you?" "I'm not embarrassed." "Bonnie, I see you're not wearing a bra. I've also seen you wear a skirt without panties 100 times. When you do, you ooze sexiness, just like you did this morning. I know you're not wearing panties." When she didn't respond, I said, "Just pull up your skirt and prove me wrong." Our staring contest continued. I got up from the table and headed in her direction. "Stop!" Bonnie shouted. "Bonnie!" I interrupted. "One of us is going to pull up your skirt. You can do it right now, or I'll do it. You have 2 seconds. "All right, I admit it. I'm not wearing any underwear. It's just like you said. Tonight I wanted to feel sexy. I wanted to have a naughty secret. What's wrong with that?" "There's nothing wrong with trying to feel sexy. It makes me horny." Bonnie smiled. After a few moments, I finished, "But that doesn't explain why you lied to me. I'm wondering how often you lie." "I'm not lying to you, Chris. You caught me off guard, and I was embarrassed." Bonnie thought the conversation was over, so she pointed to the bookshelf and asked again, "What did you do with my phone and laptop? I'd like to know where you're going this early in the morning." "Where the hell do you think I'm headed? I'm going to the office." She seemed alert. Returning to my seat, I took a sip of my rapidly cooling coffee and looked her in the eye and said, "Lying again." Bonnie reacted as if she'd been punched in the face. Growling like a mama bear, she said, "How? You dare? You?" "That's twice now. Twice in 5 minutes you have lied to me. I wonder again if lying to me is a common occurrence. Where the hell is my laptop and my phone? I want to get away from you before I say something I'll regret later." When I didn't answer, Bonnie screamed, "Where are my devices? I want them now." "They're locked in my safe." I pointed to the front door and told her, "Feel free to leave, but the electronics stay here." I think the best word to describe the look on Bonnie's face was surprise. It was as if she had been transported to a new world where nothing made sense. She visibly calmed down. She walked over to the kitchen table and sat down across from me. Taking a deep breath, she asked, "Darling, could you please explain to me how, after we kissed in the evening and said, 'I love you,' before we went to bed and we have this shit show in the morning?" After thinking for a few seconds, I nodded slowly and said, "I lied." "You lied? Good. What did you lie about, honey?" Looking Bonnie in the eye, I told her, "I lied about loving you." I was surprised that Bonnie was able to control her emotions. A few moments passed before she asked, "Don't you love me anymore?" I admitted, "I'm not sure that 2 decades of love can ever be completely broken, but it's close." "Honey, I'm too confused to make sense of this conversation. You need to explain it to me in a way that I can understand." "I'd be happy to do that if you'd do me a favor." "I'll do anything, my love." "You know you would," Bonnie replied. "For the rest of this discussion, I don't want you to call me darling, sweetheart, favorite, or any other affectionate word. In fact, I don't want you to call me Chris." Bonnie actually grinned. She said, "It's okay. What should I call you?" I pretended to ponder her question. After a moment, I said, "Call me Mike." I watched Bonnie carefully. She must have been more confused than I thought because my obvious clue flew right past her. I continued, "I'm not going to call you Bonnie." "Again," I pretended to think, watching a strange, condescending smile spread across Bonnie's face. "Instead, I think I'm going to name you Ashley." Her smile disappeared almost immediately. I continued, "Ashley and Mike, Mike and Ashley. That sounds like 2 lying, cheating, married assholes. Don't you agree?" Bonnie's face turned ghostly white, and a second later she vomited her morning coffee and the remains of last night's dinner onto the table and onto her lap. "Covering yourself in vomit seems fitting for a shitty slut. I suggest you take a shower. I'll be in my office if you want to continue this conversation." "Chris," Bonnie's eyes were pleading, "go take a shower and change out of your slutty clothes. You smell like a tramp." It was almost 90 minutes before Bonnie returned. She was wearing jeans, a shirt, and sneakers. She walked into my office and plopped into the chair across from my desk. She looked even worse after her shower. She smelled much better, however. "Chris, you have to believe me. It was just internet sex. I swear." I've never had sex with anyone. It was just stupid online nonsense. You're lying. No, don't say that. Since the day we got married, I've never touched anyone but you. I've seen it. I've seen the pictures, all 6 of them, 6 different roosters, different shapes and sizes, different colors, 6 men's hands on the same world-class ass. A world-class asshole with the exact same big bean-shaped birthmark. It was you, Bonnie. Stop lying. Just stop the damn lies. Bonnie bent in half and shook, crying into the palm of my hand. I let her cry until she stopped. She was about to say something, but I held up both hands to stop her. Now it was my turn to speak. I pulled out a desk drawer and pulled out a small stack of papers and held it across Bonnie's desk. "What's this?" she asked. "It's my divorce petition." "No," Bonnie screamed. "I don't want a divorce. Bill Murphy is filing the petition today. If you don't go into his office and officially sign a copy of the petition, you'll be served by the end of the week. What don't you understand? You don't want divorce." "I took all the money from our vacation fund," I told Bonnie. "I used the money as a down payment on a condo in downtown West Hartford. It has 2 bedrooms, so the girls will be able to visit me during college vacations." "How are you going to explain to the girls that you're ruining our happy family?" "It's easy, Bonnie. I'm going to tell them that their mother has been a lying, cheating wench with at least 6 men in the last 2 years. "You have to understand," Bonnie pleaded. "The kids are grown and living on their own. You're always on the road. I was bored. I needed some excitement. It was just sex. It didn't mean anything. Let me try to understand. So it's the kids' fault, and my fault that you became an online prostitute." "I didn't say that," she shouted. "Please stop calling me those horrible names." I laughed at the last comment and reminded Bonnie. "You texted Mike that you wanted to be a prostitute. Those are your words, Bonnie. You said." Bonnie asked, "How did you know? I was so careful." "You were careful and you never let me know that you hated me so much." Bonnie almost jumped up from her chair but leaned back and cried when I brushed her off. "You were careful, but your last sex buddy wasn't. His real name was Paul Kaplan. His wife thought he was cheating. She hired a private investigator who discovered your affair. She sent me a copy of the report. It included 3 videotapes of your last 3 dates." Bonnie continued to sob quietly. "I want you to know that I was able to identify 4 of the other 5 cheating buddies using saved emails. All of them are married. I'll give their wives proof of their husband's connection to you, including your name and contact info." After a few moments, I finished. "I'll be calling the girls, our parents, and siblings soon. I won't go into details, but I will tell everyone that I'm divorcing you because of infidelity. I'm not going to be the bad guy in this mess." 5 months later, it was late Friday night. I had just landed at the airport and was heading toward my new home. Since I hadn't had dinner, I stopped at a fancy new restaurant in downtown West Hartford. I sat at the bar, my plate was cleared, and the bill was paid. I was enjoying the last sips of Merlot when I felt a hand on my shoulder. The woman said, "I wanted to apologize to you, but I didn't know how you would take it." Recognizing the voice, I turned around and saw Kelly, Bonnie's slutty, man-hating friend. "Why do you have to apologize to me?" Kelly sat down next to me, sighed, and told me, "I think my sexual stories may have influenced Bonnie and contributed to her cheating." "Your stories?" I laughed. "You're probably right, Kelly. But it was Bonnie who created a complicated online life. Our breakup is her fault. I accept your apology, but it's not necessary." "She's a mess. I'm worried about her." "A lot of people are worried. I know from the girls and her father that she is seeing a therapist and trying to improve her life. I hope that continues." "Chris, I have to ask, is there any hope? Any small hope that you can call off the divorce and try again? Bonnie loves you so much." At that moment, I felt a hand on my shoulder again. Someone leaned over and said, "Are you replacing me already?" I turned around and smiled at Jana. Kissing her gently on the lips, I nodded toward Kelly and said, "I'd like you to meet my old friend, Kelly McGregor. Kelly, I'd like you to meet Jana Flynn." After the 2 women shook hands, I stood up, took Jana's hand, and said, "It's time to go." I smiled and said goodnight to Kelly, and Jana said, "There's no hope, Kelly. He's mine. I'm not going to let him go."